Hey ladies, ready for sip, sass, and kickin' ass? It's the networking event you've been waiting for. Come join us on Thursday, November 16th from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Forum Lounge in Chandler, Arizona. Break away from the screens, put down that damn phone, and come mingle with leading service business entrepreneurs. Elevate those connections over some classy cocktails or even an ice cold brew. Spots are limited and tickets, yep, totally free. Grab yours in the link in the show notes or visit our Instagram or Facebook group for more details. Come be part of this high vibe community and create connections with insanely amazing women that value collaboration over competition. There will be prizes and a fun gift just for showing up for yourself. Let's light it up and kick some serious business sass together. See you there. Welcome to the Ladies Kickin' Ass podcast, where we raise our voices and honor the badass achievements of women in the service industry. Get ready for empowering conversations, inspiring stories, and a whole lot of ass-kicking energy. Join us as we redefine what it means to be bold, fearless, and unapologetically YOU, babe. This is your platform, your community, and your source of inspiration. So buckle up, get ready to rock and roll, and let's show this world just how much we can accomplish. Welcome to the Ladies Kickin' Ass podcast. Hi ladies, welcome back to another episode of Ladies Kickin' Ass. I'm so excited today to be able to introduce you to my guest. This is a different kind of guest that we've had before. We've never had somebody that was a professional dancer before on our podcast, and I'm so excited for you guys to be able to hear her story. I'm excited to hear her story. So with over 10 years of experience of supporting and coaching women all over the world, Tashina understands just how vital it is to look at a whole woman when it comes to talking about her goals and dreams. It's really like the foundation of everything. I think we really have to figure out. The question that we get asked so much as little kids is like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I have really tried to flip the script on that of who do you want to be when you grow up? And then design a life around that. And I think it's beautiful because it seems like that is exactly how you have went into your life. And now you have designed this cool coaching program around this. So Tashina King is our guest today. And I just would love for you to share with us your story behind how you became a dancer at such a young age of like, what were you, 2? And then getting into your coaching business, which is called Empowered to Greatness. Like, what inspired all of that? Just give us a little bit of your backstory.
Yeah, I'd love to. Well, hello, ladies. Super excited to be here. And my journey into where I'm at now as a coach was through my own personal journey with my dance career. So like you hinted at a second ago, I, at the age of roughly 2.5, asked my mom to put me into dance classes. My mom says I really came out of the womb dancing. And so it has just always been part of, like you said, who I am, expressing through movement, creating through movement. And I knew from a very young age that dancing is what I wanted to do. But what I didn't know at that young age is why I wanted to do it. I just knew it felt good. So I went to a dance studio for, roughly like 10 years. And then 12 years old or so, my parents got divorced. So I left that studio that had really become like my second home and really like a second family, and went to a new studio that was closer to where my parents were living after the split. Knew after high school, I wanted to move to California and be a dancer. And the way that came about was I ended up joining a performing arts company that traveled all over the world. And I did 2 tours in Europe. And what was really beautiful about that specific chapter of my life, the cast and I would go into communities for 3 days at a time and predominantly work with at-risk youth. So individuals who didn't have food at home or really rough home scenarios, and school is where they would, go for like a safe haven, a safe place. We even went into an all-male youth prison, and that was really the door opening to me of how movement or dancing was the way of connecting to the conversation of someone's power, someone's self-worth, someone's confidence, someone's value in the world, and how through movement, through music, we could really start to tap into that. So I really started to fall in love with that. That's really where I started to get the joy of coaching and supporting an individual through the topic of movement. But in that time frame, I also felt like I wasn't getting to where I wanted to be in the performing arts company, because there's something else still stuck in me. So fast forward a little bit, I move into the world of West Coast swing dancing, which is a partner dance style. And again, I was like, I want to be dancing full time. This is what I want to be doing for my career. I moved my whole life out to California for, at that moment, a second time to pursue this career. And I was doing everything I was told to do. I was taking private lessons, I was practicing, I was going to events, and I was competing. But no matter what I did, how much time I spent, how much money I invested, I was not able to break through what's called the novice level, which is that entry level. And the way that West Coast Swing is developed is you have to go through all of the ranks competitively to get to that top level, to then be a professional and get hired at events and to coach and to judge. So I knew that that was my goal, but I could not for the life of me break through. And I really got to this low point of I'm about ready to give up. And quitting had never, ever been in my vocabulary. And it was really the first time in my life that I felt like I might quit. And I was like, this is not okay with me. I am not okay with quitting and giving up on my dream and something that I know I am here to do in this life, which is to dance and to connect with people through movement and talk to them at their heart, with their soul. And so I was having a conversation with my mom, who is at the time working with clinical hypnotherapy to help her clients, and then newly into another modality. And I realized, like in a catalyst moment, that when my parents had divorced at that 12 years old age, my mentor, I remembered her telling me I would never amount to anything as a dancer. And it was in that moment that it was like all of the fog lifted, all of the fog cleared, and I could see with crystalline clarity how everything in my life from that moment of 12 years old to where I was at that point, at about 21, had been, everything externally had been like a mirror reflecting that belief that I had had about myself, that I would never amount to anything as a dancer. And I started to recognize all the ways in which I would sell myself short, in which I wouldn't advocate for myself, in which I would play it safe and play small. And so with my mom's help, since she was already doing this type of work with clients, I started to work with exploring more of my beliefs about myself, exploring my beliefs about being a woman and an artist and an entrepreneur, a contractor, and my ability to have a successful career. And I realized some of it was from my own family upbringing. Some of it was from just cultural and societal demonstration, that I ended up having a lot of beliefs that really were keeping the cap on my possibilities. And so I said, no, I'm not doing this any longer. And so I dove head in, cannonballed into the pool of working with my beliefs at a subconscious level. And I started shifting them and working them and moving into beliefs which were really going to move me forward. Like, I am enough. I am worthy of having a successful career. It's okay for me to be an artist and make money, busting that idea of a starving artist that has survived through generations. And literally it was the only thing I did different. And within about 3 months, I started making finals competitively. And then 3 years later, I made it to the top competitive level. I placed fourth. Quickly after that, I was able to call in a professional dance partner. And then he and I, together in that partnership, toured internationally for about 5 years together, coaching, performing, judging, mentoring. And the work that I had done personally, the internal work, I then brought into my lessons that I was teaching with private students and our workshops. And again, that doorway, that conversation of tapping into someone's worth, taking risks. It's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to have people judge you, but not be impacted to the point to where you shut down and play small again. So all of these amazing conversations kept coming up through movement. And I just loved seeing how when we had these conversations and we started working with an individual's beliefs, not only did their experience of dance change, but their relationships were changing at home, how they showed up in their jobs and in their careers changed because they were advocating for their ideas in the workplace like they would advocate for their ideas in the creative space and the dance world. So the ripple effect is just energizing, because when we change and work on one area of our life, it impacts everything else, which is why I love talking about the whole woman, because every part of our lives is connected. And so that's where I'm so passionate about supporting women, is not just focusing on one aspect of life, not just focusing on business or not just on motherhood, but who are we as a person and how can we show up amplified in our power and a grounded perspective in all areas of life.
Oh, so good. One of the questions I would always ask people at the beginning of this podcast was like, tell me about you. Who are you at your core? Not your business, not your family. Who are you? And so many women, I stopped asking that question because it almost like threw it off crazy to people, because so many people would be like, oh, that's a good question. And I would kind of stump them. And then I felt bad because I was like, maybe I should warn them about that. But it really made me start thinking too. I'm like, who am I without all of this stuff? Because so many times, like, we are empowered if our business is doing great, if we're entrepreneurs, if our business is doing great, then we're empowered and we're badasses and we're doing all this stuff. But man, when that business takes a slide, I know for me, I'm like, shit, like, I have tried so much. I've really done a lot of this work that you're talking about this last year too, of like how much women that are entrepreneurs tie themselves to their business. Like, the worth of you has now been determined because of your business. So I'd love to hear from you. Like, how do you define empowerment when you're talking to people? Like, if they're a little bit confused of like, is empowerment confidence? Is empowerment getting shit done? Is empowerment like, what is your definition of empowerment? And how do you think that what are like women's biggest obstacles of feeling empowered?
That's a really great question. And the first visual that comes to mind is if you're looking at a lake and then you toss a rock into the lake, where that rock lands initiates a ripple and then it ripples out. And so much of women's empowerment, like you're saying, they are dependent upon those outer ripples to validate their worth and their value in the world. And if you look at culturally, that is programmed really at a really early age, like grades at school. How much pressure is put on us from an early age to do well in school, to get good grades, to do well in a soccer championship or come home with a trophy. And that may not be, as a listener, your particular story, but if you just look culturally at what's expected of society, value is placed on those external circumstances. And so what happens is then we look to those external circumstances to validate our worth, our value in the world. And so empowerment to me is really about looking at that rock that lands. You are the rock. And that rock is your resourcefulness, your creativity, your commitment to yourself, your dedication to staying open and creative and, doing different things in a different way, being willing to step outside of the box and trusting yourself enough to know that you have those aspects of yourself inside to navigate the waters regardless of the external circumstances. I was working with a client the other day and I really loved, she had this aha moment after we were coaching. She said, I finally got what it meant to me to surrender. And I said, ooh, tell me more. What does that mean? And she painted this beautiful picture of, she said, initially surrender to her looked like being in the middle of the ocean with no life raft, paddling, not having any resources available, and just hoping to God a lifeboat would come. To her, that was initially what surrender looked like, and it felt so unsafe to her that she could never really lean into that idea of surrender. And so I said, well, what changed? Now, what is your vision of surrender? And she's like, now I see that I am in this river, and the river has a current. So that can be outside circumstances. That can be COVID happening and shutting down the world. That can be a relationship changing that you weren't necessarily expecting, a divorce, a passing of the loved one. So there's the river of life, but you're in the canoe or the life raft, and you have the paddle, and the paddles are confident, or, creativity, the resourcefulness, the willingness to look at things from a different way and try new things. And so with your paddle, you get to, steer how you navigate that river of life. And you get to say, okay, I'm going to come over here for a second. Now I'm going to just take my paddle up out of the water and let myself coast and see where the current of life takes me. And that to her was her new vision of surrender, because she knows that she still has the ability to co-create within that place of surrender.
That is very beautiful, because in the way that she's phrasing surrender too, it almost creates a better relationship with the word that we use all the time of like, I want to be in control of whatever. I think a lot of women, especially entrepreneurial women or high achieving women, really, those type A's are like, I gotta be in control of everything, like the organization freaks myself. But like,
I love organization too.
but really, that's a beautiful way of looking at even that, of like being in control. Yes, this paddle that you have is your control. Do you want to be resourceful? Do you want to do this? Do you want to tip this boat over and have a huge catastrophe happen? Or you can continue to keep going. It is in your control to do these things. You can't control that river. And that, like, you have to use that to help you get to where you want to go. And that's where I think a lot of times women end up butting their heads against a wall of like, I tried this, it doesn't work. I tried this, it doesn't work. I tried this, it doesn't work. A lot of the women that I work with too are very like that, like go-getters, and want to do that, want to be in control of things. So that's a really beautiful analogy of just like, you have control of things that you do yourself. The illusion of control is a scary place to be at.
Yeah. And so when you really build that self-trust within yourself, then you're empowered to go navigate the situations of life, the experiences of life.
Sure. And I think the worthiness too, I love the analogy that you give of the rock and the lake and the ripple effect, because if you are the rock and believing and really truly deeply believing that you are worthy of things, think about how many people that you touch believing in that. They see you so much more. We say all the time on this podcast is caught than taught, especially with children. You have 2 young boys. I have 5 kids. My biggest goal as a mother is for them to see a confident, worthy mother, because that's what they see, and that's the characteristics that they carry on. Because when we are attaching ourselves to our work, attaching ourselves to the strength of some form of relationship, or something, finding that outside stuff, we're teaching our kids to seek those things too. So kind of give me a little bit of feedback on how you feel about that as like moms, and what the ripple effect looks like to you with kids. And maybe you talk about that with your coaching programs, but what does that look like for you in your life?
Yeah, well, I don't know about you guys that are listening, but for me, motherhood has been like this giant mirror of all my own stuff that I get to work
Yes.
through. And that's great. So, for example, perfectionism has really been something that I've continuously healed, like layers upon layers of letting go of that perfectionism piece. And I've gotten a lot better with it. And dancing really was a big piece of that, externally as a tangible way of applying letting go of perfectionism, because knowing that my worth was still internal instead of that external piece that was perfect to showcase, that I was worthy of belonging or worthy of, making XYZ financial dollars. And so for an example, my son, we were playing with some train tracks a while ago, and he wanted to put like 3 different train track pieces together that were from different sets. And my first gut reaction was to go, oh no, let's put this one set together and let's make it this perfect circle. But then I realized as I was starting to say it, I was like, no, this is him being creative and learning that it's okay to try new things and see how things fit together. And I had to stop myself in that moment to not try to make it be the perfect train track in a circle that would work quickly and easily. So I had to catch myself. And it's okay to recognize that you don't have it all figured out, and to show your kids and be honest and vulnerable and transparent with them. At least that's what I do with myself in my parenting, to let my son know, I just got really frustrated with that. And the reason I got frustrated was XYZ. And next time, this is what I'm going to do differently. And to be honest about your learning in the moment, just as they're learning in the moment, gives them permission to also recognize that they don't have it all together and they don't have to have it all together. And so for me as a mom, that's been a really big space for me to lean into. And that has been mirrored in my coaching. It's been mirrored in my dance business as a mentor there. And I think that's one of the things about coaching that's so powerful is we don't, as a coach, have to have it all figured out. What's powerful about coaching is that you've navigated some choppy waters and some serene, beautiful waters, and you know how you got through that to this one point. So when you're at that point, you can then support others who are in that same space, while at the same time navigating your own journey that's coming, down the river. And so I think that's why no matter what stage of life you're in, business owner, mother, whatever, it's so important to lean into support networks and systems and a tribe of women who are at all different stages of the journey. I mean, if you look back into olden days, we were surrounded by a village of women who have navigated all aspects of life. And we learn from one another, we teach one another. And so if we can lean into that space now and be okay that we don't have it all figured out, that's the school of life as humans, and to share what you've learned and support others who are coming towards where you're at, while also looking forward and receiving help and asking for help and being okay with allowing that. That's also a place of empowerment.
Absolutely. And if you are in a community, like you have to be in a community where you're giving and you're getting. It's one of those things where it's like it's so fulfilling to give back to people that maybe might be a couple steps below where you're at in your journey, but also be in community with those people that are 2 steps ahead of where you're at and 10 steps ahead of where you're at. 1, so you can see that it's possible. 2, you've got mentorship there. And 3, like there's nothing more fulfilling, I think, in women than being able to offer help and to feel your significance in helping someone. I think that's kind of ingrained in us. That's why like mamas are so good with their kids and they want to help and they want to do things many times to our detriment that now they're dependent on mom all the time. But still, like I just think that's an important thing to bring to the table when you are trying to find a community or creating a community, to make sure that it really does serve people at a bunch of different levels. Oftentimes, and I'd love to hear this from you, people will kind of say like, oh, you're a coach? Well, you haven't done what their expectation should be of a coach. I think one of the best ways to explain that is that I'm here to help the person I was 5 years ago. I'm here to help and be that person that I needed 5 years ago. How do you position yourself with that in communicating to your clients? It's okay to not have all of your shit together because nobody ever does, and that's an illusion in the first place. But I'm here to help with XYZ. They like that community. How have you built your community with the people that you coach and work with, so that they understand that they're not coming to a coach to get perfect. They're just coming to get a coach to help them get better.
Yeah, exactly. Oftentimes it's really helpful just even drawing out from their own personal experience exactly what we just talked about. When was a time where you were able to support someone else who had been through something similar to what you did, and maybe talk about that experience and then highlight, okay, well, did you have it all figured out in that moment that you were helping the other person? No. Okay, but because of your experience and your journey up to that point, were you able to be effective in coaching them or supporting them, encouraging them in some way, shape, or form? Yes. Okay, great. Well, that's what this potential relationship and working together is all about. Here's my journey. Here's what I've navigated. Here's what I'm still navigating and figuring out. And all I can do is share with you the tools that have worked best for me and that have worked well for the clients I've worked with. And that was one of the things I really learned with West Coast Swing is there's lots of pros. And even though there's basic movements and patterns that anyone that comes to West Coast Swing does, each West Coast Swing pro has their own style. And it's like they have their own dialect of the dance. So we all speak English, but it's a slightly different dialect. Some with a Southern twang, right? Some with a little more Midwestern, some with a little bit more Valley Girl twang to it. So same thing as a coach, you're going to draw people to you who like what you have to offer. Or in whatever service you're offering your clients, people are going to be drawn to you if it's a good fit. If there's something that you have that they can't get from anyone else. And that's why it's so important to have that empowerment that we were talking a little bit more about earlier, is when you own that and when you stand in that with acceptance of yourself and having pride in what you've navigated so far, it really allows you to step into a place of leadership and mentorship to other individuals who are also needing you to hold space for them.
And there's always somebody that needs that. So, I love so much. People are like, well, there's coaches everywhere. There's coaches that do this and coaches that do this. Everybody has a life experience that they can talk to or help someone else through. You're not the only one that's been through things. And the way that I talk as a coach and the way that you talk as a coach are going to be two different people that receive those things. So if you're considering hiring a coach too, that's one of the biggest things that I would give people for advice is make sure that you find someone that aligns with who you are. And the only way you're going to do that and get the most out of coaching is if you show up as your true, authentic self. You're not expected to be perfect when you come to a coach by any way, shape, or form, and we're not here to fix you. It's like we're here to help you think about things that maybe you're so in it all the time. It's an outside perspective to help you grow. So I think that's really beautiful with the things that you work on. Now, talk to me a little bit about what the whole womanpreneur method is with your coaching program, because I like that word.
Thank you. It's something I've really been finessing and clarifying really since February. So the idea is each woman wears many, many hats, and it depends on what hats you wear. CEO, marketer, accountant, mother, house cleaner, grocery shopper, wife, sister, daughter, and somewhere in there is us and our own relationship to ourselves. And like I hinted at when we first started chatting, is in order for one area of life to thrive, the other areas of life, of who you are as a person, also have to be synchronistically working. Everything needs to be working harmoniously together in order for everything to have that really impactful ripple that we were talking about a few minutes ago. And so in the whole womanpreneur method, what I help women with is I visualize it as a triangle. So there's the business side of the triangle and things like our systems and processes, our marketing. Money is the side of the triangle where I talk about that in business, and the vision of the business. There's the personal side of the triangle, so the self, which is our own relationship to who we are. So those areas of self-love, self-worth, value. So that internal world, there's our relationships to other people. So our social life, our relationship to our body, our physical vessel, and how we relate to food and diet and sleep. And then the romantic part of our lives. What does that look like? And then the other part of the triangle is the heart, where I really talk about intuition and if it is important to the woman, their connection to God or spirit or universe, however they relate to something that's bigger than themselves. And I had this really cool 90-minute session I call the Whole Womanpreneur Reboot session, where it's a really powerful way of identifying what chapters of that triangle are not really firing and operating, living and breathing in the way that you want them to be living and breathing. And once we identify what those are, then we take a zoomed in look at what are the beliefs that are causing those areas of life to be sticky and sludge-like and challenging. And then we really start working with the changing of the subconscious beliefs and literally updating the subconscious mind to operate from a different place so that you can show up differently in your business, so that you can advocate your needs or your wants to your husband, so that you can take the risk creatively to do something in your business in a way that no one else has ever done, but be okay that there's no maybe example of it, but you know that what is coming through you is what wants to be shared, so you willingly create it, regardless of knowing how it's going to be received or not. So it's a really fun way to start taking action and getting the shifts subconsciously to occur. Because the thing I just quickly want to say about the subconscious is our subconscious mind is where our beliefs are stored. And our beliefs also impact our nervous system, our feeling of safety in the world. So those two things determine our thoughts and our feelings. And then our thoughts and feelings determines our actions and our behaviors, which then determines our reality. So if there's something in your reality that you're not on board with, that you want to be different, you really got to look at the thoughts, or I'm sorry, at the beliefs and the nervous system state that's creating that reality. Because if you don't work with the beliefs and the nervous system, it's going to, like a cycle, recreate that same type of reality over and over again. Because the subconscious just pilots those thoughts in the driver's seat. But when you change those beliefs.
And how many times do you see that happen to people? You know, it's like this thing. I have seen that happen so many times, even just like marriages, for example. You have one shitty marriage and all of this stuff comes out, and then it's like it repeats itself the second time. You're like, what am I doing? You know, what are they doing? And it's really, truly is rooted into that your belief core. You know, that is what brings everything out. I know my husband and I have done a lot of Tony Robbins programs in the last year, and he really talks a lot about your internal temperature. And it's just like this. It's your belief system of, oh, I'm this 87-degree person and you're kicking ass and you're at 107 degrees. It's like people like self-implode to get back to where they feel comfortable at because they haven't worked on that belief system that they have. And it's so important to do that. And I think it's something with women that they're like, when I get time, I'll work on that. Or I read a book, so now I'm fine. I went to counseling, so now I'm fine. It's a lot of alone time. Like Anthony Trucks talks about it as like the dark work. Like you have to spend time like really processing maybe a lot of shit you don't want to think about. But it's so important to do that, to get out of that and to change that subconscious thinking. Thank you for sharing that, because I think that's something that people kind of brush off like, I'm fine. You know, women love to be fine. And no one wants to live a fine life. I don't want a fine life. I want an awesome life. And it's beliefs. Those beliefs are so strong.
Yes. Yeah. Because if you don't focus on that critical element, it doesn't matter how many self-help courses you buy. It doesn't matter how many books you listen to. It doesn't matter how many podcasts you listen to. It doesn't matter how many certifications you get. It doesn't matter how many coaches you work with who have the newest and latest Instagram strategy. If you don't take care of the root or the roots of the beliefs, you'll never have, or you'll really struggle with getting the reality that you want.
Yes. You can have all the damn strategies put together and then you won't execute it because you're too chicken to do it because you don't feel worthy to have this business. I understand that firsthand. I did that for years. And it's so crazy because people outside of you will look at you and say, why the hell aren't you doing this? And it's something that's in your core that you just don't really believe. If you find that, then you're like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Like I would say that forever to my husband. Like, I don't know what's wrong. It's just something's there. It's that. Can't explain it. Start exploring that stuff because it will change your life.
Yeah. And everyone's got crap. Everyone's got crap in the back. We all, everyone takes, poops every day. So everyone has the crap that we got to work through. It's just part of being human. And it's okay. Back to, you don't have to have it all figured out. But what you do have responsibility for is how you're going to move forward.
Yes. Amen. You're the one.
You're at choice with how you get to move forward.
Get the oar out and start rowing, man.
That's right.
Tie that back together. So you have so many cool things. If you go to Tashina's Instagram, you've got tons of links of all kinds of good stuff that's going on there. Do you have any programs that you're enrolling anytime soon or anything that you want to tell the listeners about that they can connect with you more?
Yeah, I've got two offers depending on where you're at. You could take one or both or none. One is how to create consistency and flow in your business, even when you feel scared to take action. So that's a PDF and guide. So you can get that by going to my Instagram link in bio area. I also have a Liberate Your Lives masterclass that you can get, and it's how to go live on social media with consistency, courage, and confidence. And so we talk all about, it has nothing to do with the strategies, when to post or what content to post, and it has everything to do with that internal environment that determines if you go live on social media. So those are two really great ways to just get a taste, a little bit more of how I work with my clients. And then I've got my whole Womanpreneur Reboot, which is a standalone 90-minute session, which has been really powerful for a lot of women. It gives them a snapshot into what we've talked about, a little of what areas are not operating in the way that you want them to. And we start right away in that session shifting beliefs to quite literally change the programming so that your behaviors and actions are in direct alignment with what your goals are, with what your heart's calling for. And then I have more extensive one-on-one coaching from there if people are interested in.
Very awesome. Well, you can work with her in a variety of different ways, and I would highly suggest it because there is nothing that has made my life better than working on the relationship that I have with myself. And I think so many times people aren't even aware that that's a thing. There's especially women, because there is so much that you're trying to please everywhere else, and you're trying to make everybody else happy, and you're trying to take care of everybody else, and bless your heart for doing that. However, you can't be what they need you to be if you don't feel connected with yourself. And it is some of the hardest things that you will do, especially if you've got trauma in your life that you're trying to get through. Sometimes some of that stuff, just like I said, is like the dark work stuff that you really have to go through. But what a difference it makes in all areas of your life, your romantic life, your business life, your work life, how you show up as a mom, a friend, everything is rooted at that core of what our subconscious beliefs in ourselves are. So thank you, Tashina, for really coming on today to talk about those things, bring it to light. You know that I love to talk about stuff that people don't like to talk about, and those dark, that work is something that is so incredibly important. So if there's a woman out there that's like, this is interesting, what would be like your first big tip, big step for her to take to start working on those subconscious beliefs?
3-step process, simple, but it takes the commitment to do it, right? To yourself. You have to want what's on the other side more than being uncomfortable with looking at your stuff. And that process is identify what's not working for you right now. Name it, whatever it is, name it. My finances suck. I hate how I communicate. My partner and I communicate with one another. I don't like how I'm showing up as a mom right now. Really struggling with marketing in my business. Just name it. And I always encourage people to write it down. So instead of keeping it trapped up in here, get it written out so you can see it and process it in a different way. Because there's also something very powerful about writing. So not just typing it out, but writing it out. Write it out, name it, pull it out. So you could even do on a piece of paper, thirds on the paper. What is happening right now that you don't like? Arrow. What are the beliefs or the thoughts that run in the background of my mind in this environment? I'm not enough. I suck. Change is hard. No one's going to care what I have to say. Who am I to XYZ? Whatever it is. Quite literally detox the thoughts onto a piece of paper so that you can see it. Because you really, from a conscious place, need to also know what's been living in the background that's causing the unwanted so that you can start to see the direct relation. From there, you can either do an arrow and start to write out the life-empowering beliefs. Even if they don't feel true right now, you still want to identify what you want to move into. I am enough. What I have to say is important. I am valuable regardless of my external performance, whatever it might be. And just write out a whole list. And as you're looking at it, you might be like, yeah, right. That's not true, but that's okay, because that's where the work therein lies. Those are the beliefs that someone like myself or another coach that works subconsciously and with the nervous system, that's where you start. But you first have to have clarity around what you want to shift. And if that's too hard to get to, maybe it's identifying what the external results would look like. I want my bank account to look like this. I want $50,000 months. I want my partner and I to do XYZ. You can also call out the end result and then backtrack of what beliefs would I need to have in order for that to take place. So that's where I would start for anyone who is new to this concept, who's like, okay, I feel the twinge in my heart that I need to do this, but I don't know what to do. That's a beautiful place to begin.
It is. And then put that somewhere where you can see it every day.
Yes. And then take action on it. That's the next step.
Yes.
Take action on it.
Yep. Seeing it every day. You see it every day and you don't take action, we're coming for you. This was so great. This is such a great conversation. And thank you so much for what you're doing for women out there, because it is so incredibly important that we continue to invest in ourselves and become stronger individually so that we can help build a stronger, community of women that are coming up. I see this ever so present now that I've got teenage daughters, that I'm like, you really have no idea how much they watch you and how much, even if you do this, I get so emotional about this because it's so difficult to watch girls struggle with this now. It is like, it's so incredibly important. Like, if my biggest thing is if the risk, you won't take the risk if the why isn't big enough. And if that isn't a huge why for you to start working on those hard things for you to look at, do it for them. A lot of the people that listen to this podcast are moms. A lot of them, you are the biggest role model to your children. So do it for them, because man, as they get older, they watch you and they will mirror exactly, like, you talk shitty about your body, so will they. You talk bad about other women, so will they. You talk down to people, so will they. It is insane how much they pick up off of us. And it's made me want to do this even more and really dive into it more, seeing how it impacts my kids. And even if you've got little ones, they're still watching you now, and that just builds and builds and builds as to how they come out when they're teenagers. Trust me. So it's so.
Yeah. You doing your work is not just healing yourself, it is healing future generations.
It will, for sure. That, talk about ripple effect. That's one of the best things you can do, is to change the direction of what that ripple has been that you've seen demonstrated, or even if you've had good role models with that, continue to build it and make it stronger. So thank you so much for that. But in closing, I always ask the same question to each one of my guests. Inspiration for my book I'm reading, not reading, because there are so many wonderful everyday women that are out there doing so many cool things to help other women really live their best lives. So it's a great inspiration to everyone. I ask the question every time. It's never been answered the same. So I would love to know from you, Tashina, what does the phrase ladies kicking ass mean to you in your life?
Doing your best every single day, even if your best is different from the day before and different from what tomorrow's best is going to be, but showing up and taking action and showing up for yourself, however that looks like. And some days that might mean knowing you've got your to-do list overflowing, but you go out and take a walk or you go out and sit in the sun with a cup of coffee, because that time of nurturing your heart, soaking up the sun, being in nature is going to allow you to maybe be more effective the next day. So kicking ass can look like so many different things.
Yes, it definitely can. Thank you so much for all of your information and wisdom today. I will put links to every way for people to connect with you in the show notes. So they'll all be there. Quite simple for anyone to connect with Tashina if they would like to do so. Thank you so much for your time today. This has been a pleasure. I appreciate you. I'm looking forward to chatting and getting to know where your business goes in the future.
Thank you so much, Tanya.
Thanks for being part of the Ladies Kickin' Ass community. Cheers to all you badass women out there. Keep rocking your power, igniting your fire, and making waves in the service industry. If you loved today's episode, please do me a quick favor. Take a screenshot, post it, and tag us at Ladies Kickin' Ass. Be sure to include the link to your favorite episode. Your support in spreading the word means the world to us as we aim to empower even more women. Hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for more kick-ass episodes. And don't forget, a 5-star review is the ultimate high five. Connect with us on social media. All the links are in the show notes. Thank you for being part of our tribe. Now go kick some serious ass, lady.